Thanks everybody for joining us and deciding to spend time with us this afternoon. Matt and I really appreciate it. Yeah. We're gonna kind of go over, when we were talking and putting this together, we decided to focus less on the nitty-gritty technical of video because you guys are all fantastic videographers, photographers. There's only so much we thought we could offer on that. So this presentation is a little bit more kind of like practical inspo on how you might be more efficient in kind of planning processes, or honestly, maybe even taking some things off your plate, because if y'all's jobs are anything like our jobs, you're trying to do 12 things at once and you're one person and you can't do it all. So yeah.
All right. So I'm Matt Grotto. I've been at Moraine Valley for 9 years now, actually. I was in the photojournalism world for like 15 years. So I started out in photography, and one day it's like, I want to learn some video. And I had a friend that was a graphic designer and I wanted to get into video. So we kind of did our own thing. The newspaper at the time is like, hey, we need more of a web presence with video. Who wants to do some video? And who here has even worked with video? And I was kind of like looking around the office that day, like, okay, here you go, Matt. Okay. And that year I worked with a reporter and we said, let's do like how-to videos. Hopefully that's an easy way to get someone to the web. And so we made a goal of every week one video. So for 52 videos, we did that. And it was a lot of fun to do. And little do you know, I freelanced a little bit on the side in some higher ed institutions. And then the next thing I know, here I was working at one full time for the past 9 years. So, and Chelsea.
And then, yeah, so I'm Chelsea Purgahn. I am the lone photo video gal at St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas. If you haven't heard me yet say St. Ed's in Notre Dame or sister schools, I will give you that fun fact forever and ever. We are both founded by Brothers of the Holy Cross. I come from a communications background. I was a social media manager doing more writing, some visuals, and also photojournalists. Like many of us have gone from the photojournalism to higher ed pipeline, and that's really informed a lot of the work that I do in higher ed. And then I was really doing a lot more photo than video, even though hired as both. Pre-pandemic, but the pandemic really evolved my job to be a little bit more video heavy, just having that connection that everyone was yearning for, you know, in 2020 and 21, but still trying to balance both. Now I'm a little more 50-50.
Okay, so we just kind of wanted to share like our personal observations we've had. So mainly, I think the number one takeaway, like I think I've heard it at other presentations as well, is really just making sure you're a part of these like early conversations. Like absolutely, like I've been at the college 9 years, and I still find it's like assumptions are being made on what I can and can't do, and I have to educate people even in my own area, as well as if you're finding like there's a lot of changeover in some campuses now too, with people moving around. So someone you may have worked with for 3, 4, 5, 10 years has moved on, and then you don't have that same working reputation with the next person. It's just making them aware of what you're able to do, what you can actually prioritize, especially if you're trying to do it all. It just helps that, you can be in that planning discussion and say, hey, this is realistically what I can't do, and have that, roadmap on. So expectations are going to be, realistic for everyone. I think, early on, like now we've kind of evolved where I'm at, but early on, we found, another trend I see is like, we just need a video. Okay, of what? We don't know, but we just need a video. Like we have that too. And we found early on, like, okay, how about, you give us an outline of what you think that should be. Like, what are you envisioning? And we found like right off the bat, like, oh, they have to do some legwork now. And they're like, this is maybe more work than we thought. We don't need that. So, hey, good. I don't hear from them again. Okay, well, I mean, maybe they weren't serious, So it helps kind of definitely weeded some of those out. So definitely worth a try.
Yeah. And so kind of on that point, this feels, again, a lot of this is very common sense, but being really intentional on your planning, getting all the info you need, and being in these planning conversations and asking specifically that why, because every week we have team content meetings and we're going over, do we need photo? Do we need video? Do we need social? And I'll always hear like, oh yeah, video would be great. And then I'm like, why do you want the video? What is the message you want to get across? Why do we need this for this platform? And when you start intentionally asking those questions, many times it is simply that the video is nice to have. And that's not a bad answer, but when you are the only person on the team creating the video and you have 5 other projects you're working on, nice to have is maybe not the best reason to have it. And so being at the beginning of that conversation before a project's even like fully kicked off and learning that will save you so much time and headaches than getting down, you've missed the planning conversations, you've been assigned something that you don't see the purpose or it's not aligning with like your university's mission or strategic plan. So having that intention is really important. And then this also is a great time to kind of figure out where your video might live, right? So if I'm doing a video of our university president and it's going to be something very institutional, that's going to help me decide, okay, I want to bring out my black magic for that. We might like this. This is probably going to be a horizontal video. It's going to live on web, on YouTube. Versus if I'm at like an annual event that's kind of like a carnival fair, like I don't really need that black magic. Like I could just probably do my Canon, my R6, film with that. Or honestly, even, I know this is like a little cringe to say sometimes, but like iPhone, they have gotten great. If it's just something that's going to live on social, on Darren's like, I can't believe you said iPhone. If it's going to be on Reels or TikTok and it's something meant specifically for social, that's honestly more authentic sometimes for those platforms to just do something very kind of, in our terms, low production. So again, kind of deciding that early will help you decide how you move the project forward.
Let's see. Yes. So hopefully, it's sometimes people forget like, hey, you know photo, I know this area and this or that, but they kind of forget like, hey, this advice you're having, yes, that's a great idea too. So a lot of the conversations, deciding what could be worked on. I know for us a lot of times now too, it's hey, yeah, you want a video, but what if we just used a picture of that person and maybe a pull quote out, like for a social post? Hey, and the social person's like, that would be great. Actually, those are doing pretty well analytically lately. Maybe we don't need that video right now if you got 10 other things you're working on. So just kind of that'll help again prioritize what you need to do. Like, Friday at 3 p.m. like, hey, could you do this maybe for Monday? I forgot to put that in. Well, hey, what about this other option? I think even Glenn was saying this to me. We're finding like, if they're coming to you, they want solutions ultimately, right? So especially if you're doing both photo and video, hopefully they'll realize like, hey, you're the expert, your track record's going to show that. Maybe we try this and you can go together as a team, because there's ultimately that one goal you're just trying to attain. And then, the hard part too is always setting boundaries. I know for me, I like saying, sure, I want to run and do this too. And then the next thing you know, you're doing, 20 things in a day and you're like, oh, this is hard. So it just helps so you can kind of make those expectations be known for everybody and not burn yourself out too.
Yeah.
So
I feel like being in a photographer videographer role, it's very service provider oriented. However, we have to kind of remember we're the creative experts, and we have a lot of visual literacy that maybe others on our team or other campus partners don't have on the university level. And I went to Roger's talk yesterday. He was talking about leadership evolution from kind of photojournalist to being the director of visuals at Michigan. And something that stuck with me in his talk was decisions are made in the newsroom, not the dark room. And this is kind of going to, again, being in the room where it happens from Hamilton, making those decisions and being a part of those conversations and offering your visual expertise. We had a creative branding session shared with campus partners that are in kind of like communications in their university and colleges. And our campus safety guy said that like basically our color for our brand was like brain surgery to him. It was like completely foreign. So like also having that understanding that not everybody thinks as visually as us, and something that might seem common sense to you could be really a big revelation to somebody. So it's really important to be vocal, even when you think, oh, everybody knows this. Not everybody knows this. Like, don't be afraid to speak up and say what's going to make sense, what doesn't make sense for a photo or video project.
I think I had one component that I needed from a designer, and I think from when the designer was supposed to give me those files to when they expected that first video edit to be done was like maybe like 2 days. And I was just like, wait, what? Like, okay, I guess I wasn't in on that early conversation. So it's like, we're doing catch up later. So yeah, yep. So.
Yep. And then part of having all these conversations is making sure you document everything. Again, this is boring practical advice, but has helped me time and time again. I'm sure, how many of you had a project start and it's maybe like this big, and then by the end of it, the project has evolved into this kind of like giant mountain, right? If you have project management tools at your disposal, use them and be detailed in them. We're going to show you some project management tools that we use. And this is where I take down notes in meetings. I add my deadlines, I add any feedback, and I can also point back, like when we do our Christmas video for our president every year, that should just be a Merry Christmas and turns into this like big spectacle. I can say, well, we just said we were going to do this. Like, how has the scope evolved to this? And there is something to be said about flexibility when scope can change, and sometimes it does. But again, when you kind of have a lot on your plate, being able to point back to this documentation of these conversations that you've had and say, oh, well, we already agreed upon this. I'm working on 3 other projects now. Is it okay if maybe we like rein this in a little bit more? You have that kind of like supporting evidence to kind of back yourself up. So
yeah, that was the other thing. If I had, 2 days maybe with nothing else to do for that other deadline, maybe I could have, but there's other things always going on. So yes. And sometimes they forget that. Yeah. So this is an example just of what we're using. It's called Teamwork. When I first started, though, I think I had the previous videographer's tablet, and I just kind of was like, okay, I'm going to use the note function. Okay, I know this project came in that they told me about, and I would type it in there, and I'd kind of copy or cut and paste, like, hey, this is probably higher priority. So I moved that to the top of the list and maybe focus on that. When I got tired of editing that for a day or whatever, I'd go maybe move on to the next one just to try to keep them moving along. Then Teamwork came along, and this pretty much is what helped us through the pandemic, because I don't know how our department would have functioned without it, but you can kind of see these, they're called milestones up there, like, okay, we need to have this video ready for review. Even the captioning files now had a milestone, and they will assign like a lead in our department to try to coordinate all the details between the person requesting it, our social media person here, do this certain things, if it's photo, video. But I kind of want to include this one because this is kind of one of those, like, they wanted an instructor to demonstrate some techniques, but of course they wanted it for their webpage, social media. And then Rebecca is kind of like, yeah, this is more of, yes, we'll do a testimonial that you want, but these other clips really we're not going to put that on our marketing channel. It's more for like maybe your classroom needs to see that. So it's kind of like, help with a testimonial, Matt. We won't really concentrate so much on that, but I still was like, since I was there recording the testimonial, I still had to record those. So you still have these like little things you're navigating that you're having to deal with. But I think ultimately I did use bits and pieces of that demonstration for the classroom. I did put in a testimonial, so it still kind of worked out anyway too. So, but this helps just kind of coordinate with everyone. You can, set tasks for people to like review a video. You can give them a milestone to review the video, whatever it may be. And then I believe yours is next, right?
So yes. We use many project management tools. Rank is one that I feel like we use most heavily, especially for larger projects. So I'll have kind of some various examples around this About Us brand video, which is one of a bigger project I did last semester. So this is just kind of showing you the interface where you have the main project info. It's really helpful to break out by deadline and assigning to people so you can kind of see who's doing what. It makes all of our team's work more transparent, so we know kind of what people's schedules are like at whatever time of the year. And then this is also where I tend to take any notes in meetings, like on this video internal review. We had just a Zoom meeting where we talked through my first edit, and I took down some notes that I wanted to make for our next client review.
Okay, and probably the number one key as well that's helped so much down the road, just you know, we're out there a lot, so everyone knows who we are, but sometimes they might not still realize what we all do. So there have been, when we've had new people hired, we try to like say, hey, marketing, we can actually document something in your classroom if you're faculty, whatever it may be. Let us know if you're going to be out and about somewhere doing something really cool. We want to be there and we want to showcase what you're doing on campus. And it's paid off. We've had I've had a professor like stop me in the hall. Oh, hey, my IEL class is going to be going in some kayaks on a pond on campus. Would you be interested? Yes, yes, thank you, when and where. And it just helps get those kind of shots outside of the classroom too, that you know always are interesting, because there's always plenty of inside the classroom scenes to document. And what we mentioned, like the evergreen, was that the evergreen footage too? Oh. That you can use down the road, but I'm trying to remember if that was in years down the road.
Oh, you're
too.
good.
So okay.
So similarly, this is an example of kind of how building a network with a particular faculty member has led to some fruitful images for me, especially during the pandemic. We just did not have access to a lot of academics. A lot of things were online except for a few labs. And so I had an assignment for a magazine to photograph. This middle image is from a crime scene investigation class. And so I went there, and while I was there, I was like, you know what, this is interesting. I don't know when I'll get to be in person again. I'm going to also take some video clips because it could be good for an archive we really like to highlight experiential learning. And this was that in action. And while I was there, I was talking to Professor Casey Fisher. She's in the top right on that top image saying, hey, this is such a cool class. What other things do you do? And just like taking that time to have conversations and be curious, that led me to her telling me, well, we do a lot of hands-on lab work. Are you interested in coming to my, it was crime scene photography. So they were photographing like bioluminescence, looking at blood at crime scenes. And I was like, yes, that sounds cool. And then I also, if you're able to, I'm a fully funded, I'm not charged back. I don't know how the chargeback works, but I always try to send and share photos with all faculty and staff and students that I know that I worked with. And I think that really reaps, it's just something I like to do, but it also helps build your network and have that positive relationship with those folks. Yes.
One thing I do the last couple of years prior to the pandemic and after, because I know most of the deans on campus, I let them know that to let the department chairs know that, hey, Derek is looking for new photo opportunities.
Yes, yeah.
So because I know the deans,
yeah,
most of them will send out an email in the fall and say, hey, look,
oh, that's genius.
Yeah. You have an opportunity to have some of your folks highlighted that Derek knows.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Thanks for sharing that, Derek. And doing stuff like that to where you're letting people know you're around, that led me to get like all these really cool lab photo and video images that I wouldn't have got otherwise had I just kind of did my assignment and left. And I still have kept in touch with that professor and gotten some other cool learning lab things.
And then for just kind of our gear, mine's like that right one there. I've got like some prime lenses, I think a 14-30, 24-70, a wireless lab just in case, shotgun mic in there. So it's a decent little roller bag. But depending on what I'm doing, if it's like an event, like I might have to kind of set that down in the corner then, try not to get it in the background of any footage, which I always seem to find a way to get it in there. I don't know why every time. But then of course, if there's lighting for an interview, that's completely changes. You know, I have like a big cart that I'm pushing around. So, and then people are always like commenting on that I work with, like, whoa. So, but I try to, most of the events, just be that like fly on the wall. So I want to try to not have much, so that I will set that bag in the corner and maybe just have like one prime on, a gimbal too, and then I'm moving around or whatnot. If you want to.
Yeah, your girl forgot to take a picture of all my equipment at the office before I left for this month of June. So this is just some of my camera gear. I also do use a gimbal that's really handy, and same like lav mics and stuff. But usually I'm honestly just carrying around, if you go to the next.
I think we have like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go, our picture.
I'm pretty much just using this gimbal and like my 50, yes.
Yeah.
What is your gimbal of choice?
Oh yeah, I have
Oh, yeah.
Ronin. It's the SC2. It's the second gen of that.
And I have the Ronin S.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit bigger, I think, a little more weight to it. But
yeah, so I really like to go light because this is when I started at the university. This was the video setup for anything. Was this nice for interviews and some studio work? Sure. Was this great for events when I'm trying to run around with a tripod and a tank of a black magic? Absolutely not. And I had a 6D that was not even an option for video. It had video, but my iPhone was way better than that. So I was getting feedback of like, oh, well, we'd like more motion in these clips, and this is a little bit grainy, and I had to be like, this is what you were giving me. Can we look at some alternatives or like an increase in a budget to get what you're wanting? And so that helped me get a kind of gear change to be able to create what I needed to create. And also, again, packing light, just being myself. This was too much to like carry around for like an all-day multi-event thing. And that's been so helpful to just pack light. The older you get, the more your back and your hips and legs will thank you for packing light.
yeah, that's
yeah.
So when you're shooting, are you shooting both stills and video? Or are you like, oh, we're gonna do video here, stills here?
So often, I can't speak for Matt. You're more video heavy, but
more video, but occasionally I still will.
Yeah, I am the only photographer videographer, and so that's also part of why planning conversations are so important to me ahead of time, because that's going to decide, am I bringing my gimbal if this event is 30 minutes and I need to do both? When am I going to budget 15 or 20 minutes for video or photo? But yes, I do often have to do both, and I'm like switching back and forth. So yeah.
Give me tips for learning how to use your gimbal. I've had one and I'm so horrible with it. It goes the wrong way when I'm on it.
Yeah, for me, I feel like, because yes, the gimbal is a little, when I first got it, felt a little less intuitive in terms of the movement. I forget the exact setting it's on, but I have, is it PF? It's the most stable to where there's like one axis moving. It's not all the axes. And but that's also my personal style. I don't love a ton of movement. I just want something really stable. I'm sorry, or Matt, the other.
Oh yeah, I think I just still use mine right out of the box.
Yeah.
And so sometimes like I'll get it right, and other times like I like using the thumbstick too though. So sometimes I'll like just overdo that a little too much. So I try again. So but yeah, I don't know. Maybe like video.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Video games of my youth may have helped.
Turn down my speed personally, because I'm not as like adept and skilled at the quickness of it. You can, at least on the Ronin that I have, you can kind of turn down the speed in which it's like reacting. So that's helpful for me.
Yeah.
Yes. I was just gonna say, if you have a sword style gimbal, you hold it straight up, as opposed to like forward, which kind of tend to do. Your hand access will work much better because you're not using your eyes. If you try that and you try to pan by twisting, you'll see it's doing your crazy complicated movement versus sitting your pan out so it's just that active. That's really a game changer. If you can't get that down, some handles. Makes it a lot more intuitive.
I was going to say using fine lenses versus zoom as well, because if you use a zoom, you're going to change your balance every time. So using a prime lens.
Definitely.
Yep. And then we just wanted to kind of quickly go over did I hit too many times? Like some of like the basics, I guess, a basic process, how you could fill out a creative brief, look through existing assets. Like it's kind of been huge for me, like, especially if someone tells you, hey, this is going on. If you know you need to kind of do a more general video, you can be like, oh, I remember the professor told me about this and I can use that classroom shot here and this would be great. It'll totally complement this. Storyboard, location scouting, and then filming, and then of course the fun culling it and backing it all up. Where I'm at, when I first started, it was a lot of scripts and voiceover. And when I was hired, they're like, hey, we want to get away from that. We want to go like more authentic. So now like I don't even know if I had like 10 scripts, more than like our annual year in review video. in my 9 years where it's like, hey, we need this exact wording for maybe a commercial or something. So yeah, it takes a lot longer. They don't realize it takes longer to go through those interviews too. So if they're used to maybe a 2 or 3 minute, or back then 5-minute video they were wanting way back when, not anymore. But oh yeah, it didn't take so long to edit. But now it's like, okay, well, you still want an authentic video. It's going to take, more than just a half a day to go through an interview and put it together and do B-roll and all that stuff.
And then this is just an example of St. Ed's creative brief. I won't read through all of this, but this is something that we usually have for larger projects, or something that we'll share with campus partners who maybe aren't as familiar or working with the brand every day like we are. So giving this to somebody or having some kind of form like this is so helpful to kind of align on what the tone they're looking for their video, the delivery or the scope of that video. And it gets them, again, just being really intentional with what they're wanting and having to think through, okay, why do I need this video? Who is this audience for? Do I want it to be playful? Do I want it to be serious? And kind of checking through all of that helps give you a good foundation for the start of your project as well.
Chelsea, would you be able to share those?
Yeah, I would love to.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah, I can add later in the Facebook group, I can put a PDF to it. Yeah, of course. I'd probably just run through this one.
Yeah, this is kind of
just stare at it.
Yeah, like how I like to save files, into a folder every day. Like even if I have like 2 or 3 things I'm covering that day, like today's date 06/21, 23, name of the event, UPAA Symposium, and then I put my clips in there, so that way I can try to find them easier later with keywords in the actual files. Here's your storyboard that you use for an example.
Yeah, so all our workflows are relatively similar, but one thing I'll add too is I like to work smarter, not harder, especially when it comes to motion graphics. Would I love to be an amazing After Effects artist? Yes. Am I? No. Well, I would spend hours like creating my own kind of motion graphic tile or template, and there's so many great options like Motion Array is one I use a lot, or Atom X is a plugin, and taking something like that and tweaking really quick, that's going to save me hours of my time working in a video just to like use something that's already created that's good. Like I feel like that's really important for my workflow when I'm working on so many videos, is how can I make my process a little more efficient, right? But yeah, so this is another tool that we use. It's called Miro. I don't, also like Matt, I'm not always storyboarding things. But I wanted to share this with you because I think this is one of our coolest project management tools we use at St. Ed's. It's basically a blank canvas and you can customize it any way you want. I worked on this About Us video that had multiple versions, but were very similar, and I needed to present this to our creative director and our vice president. So basically I kind of put all of our branding here and was able to give them kind of a general idea of what the look and feel would be and what brand tenet this like point of the script would point to, or the point of the image would be pointing to. And this was really important for this project because we took a very different style. The About Us video was very traditional, institutional. We wanted this to be a little more about Austin, the vibrancy of Austin, the vibrancy of our campus. So, and then this is just a screenshot of my Premiere Pro. This is the final 60-second version, just kind of a look at the timeline. I won't go into too much of that, but I did want to show you kind of going from the Reich project to the storyboard to that Premiere Pro. Sorry, yes, Nate?
This for your storyboard, got it. Then you made a storyboard, or do you use it?
Good question. Okay, yeah. So actually, a lot of the storyboard were just photos that I had, but I knew I also, because being a photographer, videographer, when I'm out doing photos, if I see this would be a nice video clip for me to have for a future project, that's what I'm doing that all the time. Like I might be focused on photo, but if I see something that looks like it's going to be a good video clip, I'm going to quickly switch over and get it. So a lot of these are just photos that I know had video associated with it. Or if it wasn't exactly like I didn't have this exact cheerleader in a video clip, but I knew I had like a similar clip of a cheerleader, that. But also too, for some of Austin, there were some things I didn't have that I did have to fill in with stock, which I hate to say, but I found Pond 5 when I was working on this project, and it had some more like modern stock photography or stock videography. And so that was really helpful. But yeah, it's kind of a mix of like video and photo screenshots on this. Good question. But so yeah, this is the kind of final how it turned out. And I didn't even test the sound. So oops. Is it gonna be? Let's find out. Oh no, it's just on Matt's computer.
What if we told you this was 3 miles from downtown Austin, with access to here, here, and here within minutes? A network of unique partnerships energize this campus, and access to our diverse alumni community connects us to this, and this. The Hilltop is home to historic programs and vibrant activities that educate the heart and the mind. With support and guidance of our dedicated faculty and staff, Hilltoppers explore passions through real-world experiences like internships, research, fellowships, and study abroad. They celebrate different cultures, join purposeful clubs, and start new traditions. In a vibrant community where you are seen and heard. At a university consecutively ranked as a best college in the US. What if we told you St. Edward's is a destination that prepares you to take on your world?
So you can see kind of, Nate, there were some of those that were photos that I had those video clips of, but also the reason I wanted to show you guys that was 90% of that video was footage I just had in my archive. I didn't film it specifically for this project because the previous time they did this, they took an entire academic year filming, and like the scope grew, right? And we wanted to keep it tight. And so once we had the script, I looked at what did we have, what could I use, and then filling in the gaps there. So I really only had to film a few other things that I didn't have originally. I'll let you go.
Okay. Oh, okay. And yes, and we've heard a little about this too. Always great to hear. Just setting some boundaries again, so important. I know I try to at least have a week if something's needed. Let's say if they need a video for tomorrow, it's got to be displayed somewhere tomorrow. At least the week before, we try to have that in there. But then you realize, okay, well now I have to caption it and everything. So you're just trying to make sure that you can hit all these deadlines, and if there's always some other issues, like, you might need some help, like with an interview. If you find you might need some help with an interview because maybe you do want to use 2 cameras, maybe someone in the department could come by and say, hey, could you be the one maybe asking the questions for me? And then they can see this process that you're going through too. And like, oh, wow, like I didn't realize it took you 45 minutes just to set up gear. Like, I just thought you just hit record. So, then they get fine. They know what's going on. So everyone learns. So it's great.